We are live back with another episode of Your Wildest Fantasy Football Show,
Oh, yeah.
a Tuesday edition.
It is Tuesday.
Tuesdays, we talk waivers. Big waiver day, always an exciting day, chance to make your team better. There's a lot of options. I'm not sure how good the options are, but there are a lot of options.
That is true. That is a factual statement.
But before we get into that, we need to cap off Week 9 Monday Night Football between the Bears and Steelers. We are at the halfway point of the NFL regular season.
We are.
Officially, after a, albeit controversial, game between the Chicago Bears and the Pittsburgh Steelers, ending up with a Steelers victory. Fantasy-wise, I'd like to say that first, before we get into anything fantasy-wise, we need to talk about Justin Fields because he has been a controversial topic on this show. He had a solid fantasy day, did not deliver the top 5 fantasy performance that I was hoping for, but finished with 18 fantasy points.
Indeed.
On the evening, 17-29 for 291 yards. Most yards he's ever passed for in a game by at least 80. A touchdown, interception, 8 carries for 45 yards. He's run for at least 38 yards in the last 4 games. So we're starting to see that running volume that we expected from him. What did you think about Justin Fields in primetime, almost leading the Bears to a win?
So watching the game, it kind of looked like the Steelers came to play in the first half, and then they just gave up both offensive and defensively in the second half. Their defense looked a lot more pitiful in the second half for sure, and that was where Justin Fields was able to connect on a couple deep bombs on them and really pad those numbers. Like sitting here watching the game, watching him overthrow a couple people in the first half, and then then underthrowing a couple of them, I was like, typical. And then the second half, the defenders were nowhere to be seen. And I was like, maybe Mooney and Robinson are just insanely fast. 199 overall speed for Madden here. But I was like, I don't think that's possible. So I don't think they're that much faster. I think that the defense just blew some coverages. Was a better game for them, for sure. It's good to see quarterbacks throw for almost 300 yards. It's encouraging if you're a Bears fan and you have to root for this guy going forward to be the face of your franchise. I'm still not sold on him yet, but I think it's encouraging if you're a Bears fan to see him. If you only watched the second half of the game or you only watched highlights, he looked amazing. But watching the full game, you kind of get the whole story. So depends on how you watched it. But wasn't overly impressed with him though.
As a rookie quarterback, I think he looked good. He looks better, and he looks like he's getting better. I think that's really all that you can hope for, especially with seeing the rookie quarterback play so far. Seeing these guys, I think I would say that Trevor has gotten better throughout the year as he's played more games. I think the same can be said for Fields. It's really hard to tell with Zach Wilson and obviously Trey Lance because they haven't played as many games. But with those two guys, it's nice to see them growing. I kind of got where a lot more of the criticism is, just being able to see the Bears in prime time, getting a lot of the criticism from the coaching staff side of things, because it feels like, and this could be on Fields as well, not really sure if there's any way to tell, but it feels like he is always holding on to the ball for a long time and throwing down the field. And some of the plays, I haven't went back and reviewed all the tape just yet. But some of those plays, it feels like a lot of guys are down the field and he is expected to make bigger plays, some of which he did make and some of which he did not as a rookie quarterback. kind of a tougher thing to do, to be expected to do, delivering the ball down the field and trying to make these splash plays. I was encouraged by what I saw from Fields and think that I mean, I'm not gonna come out and say, yeah, he's your guy, Bears fans. You have nothing to worry about for the next 10 years. But I certainly would feel great about it or solid about it as the person not saying that he's like the worst thing ever.
I can't tell if it's my laptop or if it's like something. I don't know what it was. That whirring noise. That was weird. Weird noise.
Worry?
Like whirring, like that noise. I don't know what it was.
Do you still have the chainsaws outside your house?
Probably. I don't know.
That seemed to end with Halloween, which was it was almost like it wasn't even a big deal. It was just kind of festive.
It was like 2 days after they're still here, and now they're just banging on the floor below me. So it is what it is. Life moves on. I ain't gonna lie. A little scared.
Are there any other fantasy performances from this game that piqued your interest?
Yeah, Pat Fryermuth. I think I was wrong on him. I'll take that one on the chin. I really thought that Chicago's defense would be a little bit tougher than they end up being as on the tight end. Great day for him. If you did wait to start Pat Fryermuth, it paid off. 21 points for him. I believe, yeah, he led every tight end this week in fantasy points. So encouraging for that. I was wrong about him. I'm not loving him going forward, be honest, but like ate my words this week on doubting Pat Fryermuth for sure.
I think Freiermuth is a fine option. I mean, I guess it depends who you compare him to, but I think he's fine to be in that outside of the top 4 guys or 5 guys. Who do you have? You have Kelsey, you have Kittle, you have Waller, and you have Hawkinson.
I'd put
and Andrews that you really feel great about every week. And then outside of that, I think it's kind of like a shit show. So if you want to put Freiermuth in there, I'm fine with that. I think he's as good of a throw towards just hoping that someone will get in the end zone as anybody. And like, it's not like he's just somehow getting in the end zone. They're looking to give him the ball in the end zone. Like he is the guy they're trying to throw the ball when they get trying to throw the ball to when they get down there. So I think Pat Freiermuth can be a for real option in fantasy football at the tight end position if you're looking towards that like secondary list of guys. If you're looking at like Noah Fant, Logan Thomas, especially a lot of the guys who are on waivers, which we will talk about later in the show. I did want to talk about Chase Claypool really quickly. I thought that the Juju injury was going to open things up for him.
Right.
It has not. Since that has happened, he has not had a double-digit week, I believe. So that has been – oh, no, he had 10.1 in full point last week. I don't think that's really what you're loving, but
no.
He went 3 for 30 in this game, 5 targets. 2 of those targets that he did not catch were in the end zone. So that gives me a little bit of confidence to not drop him yet, but right. I think he is kind of on the brink of if there's someone out there on waivers that you like, I think you can almost drop him. I'm willing to give him another week, but I'm not feeling great about Chase Claypool right now.
Yeah, Chase Claypool. So I think Big Ben's he's on a little bit of a decline. Just he's not as dynamic and as accurate as he kind of used to be. I think age is always a factor, and he's just getting old. Is what is, not anything on his fault. Just players are getting faster on the opposite side, and
he has put his right arm through a lot.
That's just uncalled for.
What do you mean? He throws the ball.
Anyway. And also Claypool did get injured in the game. He has an MRI right now for a toe injury.
And we've talked about this. Toe injuries, foot injuries, the lower you get, the more dangerous it is. Last thing you want is a turf toe.
I think the last thing anyone wants is death, but turf toe is definitely close second.
I put turf toe close second.
Yeah, it's definitely right there. So, yeah, I don't blame you for wanting to get rid of Claypool. I don't want him on my team. I think Chase Claypool might finish as a wide receiver 3 this year if he's lucky. If he's lucky. I don't see wide receiver 2 anymore, and I really don't see a need to have this guy on my team when you can pick up a wide receiver 3 off of the waiver wire week in and week out, who's going to get you as many, if not more points as Claypool. So, yeah, I'm with you if you want to drop him. I don't really have that many shares of Chase Claypool just because wasn't one of my high guys coming into the year. I love Deontay Johnson. I think Deontay Johnson's going to tear up this year. And I guess that's also what's kind of weighing down my.
Well, he's the only guy with consistent catching and target volume besides obviously Najee in this offense.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side of things, you mentioned being able to pick up a wide receiver 3 in waivers or free agency. Would you rather have Darnell Mooney or Chase Claypool?
Chase Claypool. I feel like the quarterback. Darnell Mooney, I mean, yeah, sure, Justin Fields had a decent game this time, but I mean.
He's on a 2-week hot streak.
Okay, but he's really on a half hot streak. If you watch the whole game, the first half he went 6 for 12, 6 for 13 or whatever.
Well, that's all part of the game, though. It's all encapsulated in one game.
But he was getting overthrown, and then I'm pretty sure it was Robinson who got a couple of deeper ones later in the game that they connected on. So the quarterback situation, I think, handicaps Mooney more than Claypool. So that's just why I'm going to have to go with Claypool. You asked for my answer. I gave you my answer.
You did. You did. I would go Mooney. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's unbelievably in favor of Mooney. Another one that I was going to do was Sterling Shepard. Feel like with the injury and stuff like that and the bye week this week, a lot of people are obviously lower on Shepard. And I get if you need one of these guys to start, that's probably a problem in the first place. But right. Who would you rather have rest of the season, Sterling Shepard or Claypool?
Shepard.
I would take Shepard pretty easily.
I think I like Shepard more just because the Giants are going to have to pass. And
when he's on the field, he's fine. It's just the thing about him getting on the field that's the issue.
Right.
Going into the double digits here, week 10 waivers. Like we said, to open up the show, I think there's a lot of names. I don't know if there are any high, top of the ranks names or guys that are going to deliver, you're immediately putting them in your lineup.
Don't worry, I have a couple for you, Kondo.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you have more than a couple. I also have more than a couple. My rankings are something that is going to be we may have some adjustments on the fly, and that's just something that we're going to have to deal with. But I do not have any quarterbacks, so let's start with your quarterback pickups.
So first guy up for my quarterbacks is little-known guy named Matt Ryan. I think Matt Ryan is in – yeah, I mean, I understand if you haven't. I'm pretty sure he might have only played in the Super Bowl.
It's either that he's little known, nobody knows him,
mm-hmm.
or he's little, just a smaller guy, and known. But he's not small, so I imagine you were saying little known. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
Right. He plays Dallas this week. Dallas kind of lets you throw the ball. Good week for him to potentially throw for 300-plus yards. He really only has 2 down weeks so far this year, week 1, week 8. where he got you below 10. I think Dallas is a good game. They got a good defense, but I mean, I think Matt Ryan has the ability to. He's got Cordell Patterson to throw to. He's got Kyle Pitts. They got that young guy out there I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name, but
Kies?
Him. He looked good this week, so I think he's an interesting pickup this week. He's only rostered in 43% of leagues, so you can get him. Carson Wentz is my second guy. Just rostered just shy of 50%. Carson's playing Jacksonville this week, and I think Carson is an interesting pickup if you're in desperate need of a quarterback. I like Matt Ryan a little bit more than I do Carson Wentz this week. So Matt Ryan's my number one guy. Carson's number two.
That's fair. I like both of those picks. I would also throw out there, depending on what you need. If you're looking to stream a quarterback, those would be guys that I would also be interested in. If you're looking to stash a quarterback, I would see, and it's probably going to be harder to get at this point, but there's been a lot of 12-team leagues where I have at one point or another seen Russell Wilson out there. If he is out there, go get him. He's definitely not available in over 50% of leagues.
85.9 he is rostered.
How many?
He is rostered in 85.9% of leagues, meaning he can be available in 14.1.
Yeah. So if he is out there in your league for some reason, just make sure, because even 85, which seems like a lot, is pretty low for a guy that is going to be a top 7 quarterback, I would say, pretty undoubtedly for the rest of the season. And I think there's some other stash guys that we've talked about as well, whether that is Trey Lance, Taysom Hill. I think Taysom Hill will get the job at one point or another. I think even Justin Fields is an interesting ad. Just seeing that the volume that he gets with his legs and what he can do there. I mean, I don't think either of us would say that he played the greatest game yesterday, and he still put up 18. So his schedule also gets a little bit better down the stretch here. I wouldn't say that you shouldn't pick up Justin Fields, especially if you are looking for a quarterback to stash. Moving into running backs, there's a couple guys I have on my list here, and it's hard to not bump running backs up, even if there are better wide receiver options, just because of how slim pickings the running back position is. Like, I don't want to have Devonta Freeman on this list, but he is my third top waiver priority, which is something that I don't like to say out loud
I don't know why you said it.
Even write down. But he is third on my list. I do have a running back ahead of him, though, and that comes with the big news that was out today, which is that Nick Chubb tested positive for COVID. Now, he is vaccinated, so he does have a chance to come back this week, but I think rolling the dice, especially if you need a running back for this week, rolling the dice on D'Ernest Johnson, we saw what he did last time in this role and as the lead back in Cleveland, and it resulted in over 20 points in fantasy.
Right.
Probably played a good part in winning your week. I just think that's too much talent to not, like I said, roll the dice on if you're looking for a starter this week. He can be as good as anybody in this offense and in this scheme that likes to run the ball a lot and is not afraid to give it to him and does not lack in any trust when he is the starter.
Right. They're playing New England this week, so a little bit more hesitant on D'Ernest Johnson. He was just the third guy I wrote down, just because you're playing New England. Baker is a good quarterback, but he's not. I don't think he's elite, so it is what it is. And also,
Joe Flacco is elite.
Exactly. Threw me off there. But yeah, I think, New England just has a way of taking away what you're good at. And if you're good at running the ball, they're just going to hog the line and force you to throw it. So I think it could be a down week. Still starting Darren Johnson if Nick Chubb doesn't play.
Enough. Who were your other running backs that made your pickups list?
So slightly controversial for you, maybe. If I put Sony, the Hitman Michelle out there, I think just the passing upside has to be there a little bit. And they're playing San Francisco. They're playing the Niners. I could see him getting a couple of touches. I could see him getting a gimme touchdown here. He's not a guy I'm loving, but he's a guy.
You put him ahead of.
No, I didn't put him ahead. I just what?
Or is it in any particular order?
No.
Okay. I also had him on my longer honorable mentions list, as well as some other handcuffs, like a guy like Nyheim Hines that had a big week this week.
Right.
I would agree with that.
I put Hines above him in the list by a lot. Nyheim Hines is the number one guy, but I didn't have a cool nickname for Hines, like Sony the Hitman, Michelle. So
doesn't Nyheim Hines have a good nickname?
No.
Let me look that up while you keep talking about Nyheim Hines.
Thanks.
Oh, it's Nightmare with a Y.
No, it's not as cool.
I think that's pretty solid. It would have been harder to say Nightmare. Nyheim Nightmare Hines. I think that's a pretty solid one.
It is, but
you can't explain with the Y.
Right. And honestly, a nightmare you can just wake up from. You're just oh, woke up. Now I'm just gonna go watch TV and play some Fortnite, But with
can't wake up from a hitman.
Can't wake up for a hitman. So this is why I put him above. Honestly, in all actuality, Sony Michel is a later guy. I put him below Dearness Johnson. Just like the upside that Sony Michel could potentially bring if Henderson was a little banged up. Nyheim Hines was my number one, just because, again, they're playing Jacksonville. He's in Indiana, and I just like that offense this week. My second guy is around 50%, so he's kind of there, kind of not. But it was Adrian Peterson. They're playing New Orleans, so I think it's going to be a tougher game. But I think that only benefits Adrian Peterson. And I think if it's going to be a tougher game, they might just be hey, let's just see if we can just run the ball like we used to. And Adrian Pearson's a tough guy. So,
what do you think? We talked about the Tennessee running game, but I think next week might be more of an opportunity for Adrian Peterson, because I could see a lot of people dropping him after this week. Let's not forget, New Orleans Saints are one of the best defenses in the NFL, especially against the run. I think definitely would consider adding Adrian Peterson, just because the upside there is huge, obviously, for volume in a good offense. I was very encouraged, and not a guy that's on my top list, but very encouraged with Devonta Freeman and how he played in that game. He looked like the best rusher on that team. I'm not sure, depending on how deep your rosters are or how deep your league is, you want to add Devonta Freeman. Not, like I said, not one of my top guys, but someone to definitely keep an eye out for.
Yeah, you can keep an eye out on him. I think Adrian Pearson, this was his first game back. I like Nichols. I like Pearson. I think those are the two guys who are going to be, milking their way to a lot of touches and a lot of points here. Exactly. I just kind of like them more, but I think Pearson I think they might just try to run it with Adrian and just be hey, let's see if we made a right decision picking him up right away, instantaneously after the news broke. So that's just why I put him second, and then Dearness Johnson, and then Sony the Hitman Michelle.
I have Dearness. You did not mention Devonta Freeman. It's fair.
I've said it a lot on this show. There's a couple backfields I like to stay away from. Philadelphia, one of them. But first and foremost, it is Baltimore's backfield. San Francisco's backfield's obviously up there too. Earlier on in the season was just a cluster. But yeah, Devonta Freeman is an interesting choice. I don't blame you for trying to believe in him, but just a history of watching Baltimore play, they're not feeding the guys the different guys are eating almost every week in Baltimore. It's kind of funny just to watch. But if you want them, you want them. But again, Baltimore's best running back, he doesn't really, he wears number 8, so it is what it is. Lamar Jackson, for people who don't understand what number.
Okay, well, I did not understand what you were talking about. I thought you were talking about Devonta Freeman. False statement on your behalf.
Devonta Freeman was number 33. So close. If you switch the first 3 backwards, it would actually be an 8, but it's not.
But then he would be the quarterback.
Right. So then it would be all confusing. So
I think Devonta Freeman is just not an ad that you feel great about, but unlike D'Ernest Johnson, is a guy who's going to have value for more than a week, you would hope. And maybe a guy that you can package in with something. He does have 3 double-digit weeks, did have a touchdown in all of those weeks. Exactly. So that's why I don't think you want him on your team, but I think you want him on your team for the short term just to maybe try to include in a trade and be like, hey, this guy has 3 double-digit weeks. We still don't know when Latavius Murray is going to come back or how serious that is. You can leave out the 3 touchdowns in the last 3 games part if you are trying to trade him away. I would suggest doing that.
Yeah, you can always pick and choose the stats that you send to people when trying to sell someone. And like I said, if you're in a novice or intermediate league, then that could work. And someone's going to jump on the idea of getting Devonta Freeman, who's had 13, 14 points the past 3 weeks. They're going to be like, oh, that's great. But yeah, just know your league and know who you can scam and who you can't.
Well, I don't think it's even a scam. I think people could be encouraged. He had a good volume too last week, and not only good volume, but good efficiency. And that's been something that was not there against Cincinnati, but something that was there against the Chargers, something that was there against Minnesota. And especially looking at Latavius Murray's numbers, you can't say that Latavius Murray was playing all that better than Devonta Freeman was. So he has a good chance to keep a very hefty role when Latavius Murray comes back. And I don't think you're getting anything for Devonta Freeman on his own, which is probably the reason he's rostered in 13.4% of leagues right now. But if you want to throw him in with throw him in with a lower, maybe a wide receiver 2 to try to get a low wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 1 that struggled last week, just to kind of bump up the value there. He is a running back who gets carries, and I think that is enough to kind of bolster the word I'm trying to think of, capital of your team, of your bench, even if he is not a guy that you're looking to use.
Yeah, Tyson Williams is the only running back in Baltimore who has a double-digit week without needing a touchdown to push them over that hump.
And he also hasn't done that since week 2, right?
I'm not saying roster Tyson Williams.
No, I'm saying that I'm kind of going to your point of,
yeah,
it hasn't been done in a while.
It was week 2 that he got 11.3 with no touchdown. Every other running back, Latavius Murray, Freeman, Bell, Ricard, all of them to get their double digits need a touchdown. I think it's just so clustered back there that you want to stay away from it. If you have to roster someone, then in my mind it's Freeman or Murray. But again, I don't think you should be rostering any of these guys and starting them on a weekly basis.
As for wide receivers, I have the number one guy that I would try to pick up if he is available in your league. He's not available in all leagues, as is shown by the number at the bottom of the screen right there, which is 49.1% roster percentage. So definitely going to have to take a look to see if he is out there. Of the people on my list, the only one that is out there in a bunch of leagues is Devonta Freeman. I will bring more names up. So if you're like, none of these people are available in my league, I got you covered. But for now, just wanted to talk about the person I would be picking up with the 50% or less rule intact. We talked yesterday. I think you were the one who brought up in Dallas, who is Malik Turner.
I did. I said, who is Malik Turner?
5 for 7, had 2 touchdowns. He's the third wide receiver on the field. I think it just kind of shows that Michael Gallup is going to get looks when he comes back, and that there is a very clear possible role for him in his return. McCarthy came out and said he expects him to practice fully on Wednesday and be back for the game. I am very encouraged by this. I think there's a lot of wide receivers that are pretty close on this list. I think a lot of people are going to say Elijah Moore is the top wide receiver to go get. Maybe Donovan Peoples-Jones, maybe Darnell Mooney. Those 3 offenses versus the Cowboys offense don't compete in my mind. So, and it's probably not the best week to say that, but going forward, I think that this Dallas offense is just something that I would want to be invested in somehow, some way. And if that means Michael Gallup, I am fine with that.
Mm-hmm. Michael Gallup played the entire week 1, right? I can't remember.
He got hurt in week 1.
He got hurt during the game?
Yep.
Well, you know when?
I want to say third quarter, but I do not remember.
I can't remember either. I was really lost.
I can try to pull that up while you're talking, if you were.
All right. Michael Gallup was not on my list, but interesting pickup by you. I put Brandon Ayuk as one of my wide receiver pickups this week.
I forgot about Brandon Ayuk, it turns out. Ayuk would be my number one.
Nah, it's too late. I already claimed him. You already said your guy. It is what it is. Brandon Ayuk playing the Rams this week. Rostered in 45% of leagues. Definitely out there. He's an interesting guy. Like he came off, first 7 weeks, he only had 1 week that had double digits and it came off a touchdown. So a little scary, and definitely a lot of shade thrown at him on this show, but rightfully so. If you're not going to perform, it is what it is. If you're going to take a paycheck, you got to get, the hate that comes with it. But the past 2 games against Chicago and Arizona, he's put up double digits, 1 with a touchdown, 1 without. So I think this could be a turnaround for Brandon Ayuk, and I don't hate it. Definitely an interesting guy to pick up. He was one of my wide receivers. I also put Elijah Moore and Van Jefferson on my list. Both those guys, I think, just have the potential. I mean, Elijah Moore is on the Jets. He's put up double digits the last 3 weeks. I think he can do it again. He's playing Buffalo. I mean, it's going to be tough, but I think you can do it. Buffalo looked human this week, so he's not like my favorite starter. I like Ayuk more than I like Van Jefferson, just because I think Rams offense is explosive in their pass game. They have a great quarterback. They have Cooper Kupp, which is an elite wide receiver. They have Robert Woods, who is underperforming so far, but still a fantastic wide receiver. And I think Van Jefferson can continue to eat. I mean, 2 out of the last 3 weeks, he's put up double digits. So Ayuk, then Van Jefferson, and then Moore are my guys this week.
That was a mess up on my part. I own up. I don't know where Ayuk was on my list, but he should have been at number 1. That is my mistake. Big hype up for Michael Gallup, only to be dethroned 2 seconds after crowning him the number 1 waiver pickup of the week. I would go Ayuk and then Gallup. And then there's a lot of names here. I would probably go Elijah Moore next, and then Peoples-Jones. I think those two are very close out of the wide receivers. I think Peoples-Jones has, if he can get the volume, it is a very good shot for him to be ahead of Elijah Moore. Now, the one thing I'm concerned about with Moore, there are a few things. One, obviously the Jets. 2 is that when Zach Wilson was there, like the connection between the two just wasn't what it's been the last 2 weeks. Now, the Jets offense hasn't been what it's been the last 2 weeks. And is that on Zach Wilson or what is that based in? Not totally sure. We have possibly, maybe, I don't want to say we, I have belief that it's LaFleur not being in the booth. So we'll see if he sticks in the booth this upcoming week and going forward. If he does, Elijah Moore, as Michael Jordan once said, the ceiling is the roof with him. But he and Donovan Peoples-Jones are close for me. And then I'd probably go Mooney. I think there's Rashad Bateman, obviously, is an interesting name. I'm a little bit more worried with some of their receivers getting healthy. I think Sammy Watkins is going to be back next week, or they're expecting him to be.
I think so.
Will Fuller is also an interesting name that's out there and a lot. Russell Gage, AJ Green, depending on how severe this D-Hop thing is, might be the number 1 wide receiver in Arizona. That's always something that gets you excited. Jamal Agnew is somebody that I'm still looking at as well in deeper leagues, full point PPR leagues. But those are my wide receivers that I would be looking towards, both of our wide receivers. Into the tight ends. Tight ends actually make up a big portion of the back of my waiver wire picks.
Interesting. You kind of shy away from tight end some weeks. I like it.
Changing it up a bit.
Yeah, I like it. I'll let you know what. Since you're new, I'll let you go first, kind of.
So you're gonna love this one. There's a lot of tight ends out there that could have been on this list. Tyler Conklin, Logan Thomas, and Pat Freiermuth were the 3 guys that stood out from the crowd. I look out, I see all these giant, voluptuous tight ends, and I'm like, wow, who? You see so many, it's like, wow, well, these are just a lot of tight ends in my face. I don't know necessarily like what to pick or what to look at.
Mm-hmm.
And you see these guys and you're just like, whoa, those are giant tight ends. And that would be, I have already got myself lost in this own story. Have I said the names of them yet?
Tyler Conklin, Logan Thomas, and Pat Freiermuth.
Pat Freiermuth. Okay, so I did say it. And the one that stands out for me is the long hair beauty Tyler Conklin. Like if you look at what he's been able to do, particularly in the last few weeks, especially, he's getting as much production and looks as anyone, and he's doing it without touchdowns. He has 1 touchdown on the year, and he has 20 points in that game. He has 10.1, 10.7, and 9.5 in his last 3 games. Only has 1 game with less than 4 targets, and he had 3. So the volume is there. It's a good offense that is going to score touchdowns, which I don't know that I can say about the Washington football team as much, or even the Pittsburgh Steelers as much as the Vikings offense I think he will get touchdown looks. Like, I'm not worried about that being a problem for him. I think that the regression will come. It's not like they don't look at him in the end zone just because, or like he's not a player that can score, or just not the way that he's used. I think he can be a end zone threat. So I expect those numbers to change a bit, expect touchdowns to go more in a positive direction for him moving forward. And I think he's the best tight end out there right now.
I know you got one right. Congratulations. Proud of you. You finally did it.
Hey, coming from you means a lot.
I'm glad. Yeah, Tyler Conklin was my number one tight end pickup again. I think I've been banging the drum for Tyler Conklin almost all year, if not all year. Yeah, I mean, you're on a great offense. You're not the big name weapon, whereas some of these other tight ends are. So you're not going to be drawing the best corner, the best coverage against you. You're not the game plan against E. You're just going to benefit from the fact that you have Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook all out there to, space out the field for you. It's beautiful. Love Tyler Conklin. And I don't hate Logan Thomas and I don't hate Pat Freiermuth going forward. Neither of them made my list. A guy you missed, maybe on purpose, maybe on accident, maybe you just hate him, but it's Dan the Man. Dan the Man Arnold is out there. I think he's rostered in like 16, 15% of leagues. So he's out there in like 80% of leagues. Insane volume that you can get him in. Jacksonville is not the sexiest team out there by far. But the fact that like he's starting to kind of come into it a little bit these past couple weeks, I like it. It's encouraging, and he has a good matchup this week, so I like it. Are we doing?
Do you think that's a good sleeper?
Are we doing defenses and kickers, Condo, or did you all?
We can. I want to talk a little bit more about Logan Thomas going forward. He is rostered in 47.1% of leagues, even though he is not my number one tight end pickup. I do think that he should be rostered in over 50% of leagues. Like, he was getting volume before, and I get that this Washington offense isn't the most exciting thing on the face of the earth, but like, I don't think he's a bad option. Like, he was getting decent target volume. He's a guy that they look at when they're getting close. Like, he's Logan Thomas too. Like, he had a heck of a season last year. He's someone that I do think should be rostered, even if you're not starting him, just to get a look, because that name is going to, if he is able to go off early on, that name is going to draw a lot of interest for someone looking for a tight end.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy. He was lower on the list, but he needed the touchdown to get the double digits the 2 times he had it this year. He has 3 red zone targets, averaging 1 a week. Surprisingly enough, he didn't get one in the week he had 7 targets against the Giants. That was actually the only week he didn't get a red zone target, which I thought was funny, just because he got 7 targets, unlike the other week where he got 3 and 4. So against Buffalo, half his targets were in the red zone, which I guess is good. You have a good chance to score, and he delivered on one of them, so that's nice. He's just a guy who I think, he, again, like we talked about, you brought up first, outside those top like 4 or 5 guys, it's all just really personal preference about who you think's going to score. If you think Logan Thomas is that guy in the Washington football team, then all power to you. Hey, believe in who you want to believe in. I don't hate it. I just don't. He's not my number one guy going out to waivers, but if you have like pick 8 or 9, then absolutely Logan Thomas is a great pickup at that price.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he's a good ad for anyone, just because we talk about name value and what that can really play in fantasy football and how that can matter as much as production. Like, we see Brandon Ayuk have one big week and he's number 1 on our waiver pickups because of the expectation coming into the year. where we've seen Darnell Mooney put up a few more good weeks, and he is not even on our list. And maybe like rightfully so. I think there are some other things that go into that as well, being the Chicago offense versus the San Francisco offense as the big thing there. But I think the name value also plays a role in that as well. And it shouldn't be dismissed just because, well, it's just a name. No, because not a lot of people think that way. A lot of other people are going to have value in the name. So even if you don't, other people are, and that's going to add value to that player if you are to trade them.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't put Mooney on the list for a bunch of reasons, but you kind of hit the nail on the head. The offenses are much different. Teams are much different overall too. But yeah.
But if you look at a guy like an Odell, like who got cut from his team, if it was somebody who was a lesser name, nobody would want Odell or look at Odell.
Well, if it was a guy who didn't have like an hour-long repertoire of just highlight plays and insane snags and grabs and, insane seasons under his belt, then like, yeah, obviously you're not going to go with no name rookie, nobody who didn't make the team. You're going to go with Odell Beckham Jr. because he's OBJ. And when given a good quarterback, or not even a good quarterback, he has Eli for Jesus. But, like when he had a quarterback who fed him the ball, like it was insane.
And like a guy, there's plenty of people who outperformed Odell this season, even when Odell was on the field. And we would still rather have Odell. A lot of people would still rather have Odell because of the name and because of the potential there than people who are outperforming him. Again, a guy that you can mention is Darnell Mooney. Sorry, Darnell Mooney. Actually, you're welcome, Darnell Mooney, for all the airtime here today.
Yeah.
Moving on into DSTs and kickers. Cody.
My bread and butter, baby. Defenses this week. I like the Titans and I like the Packers. Gut feeling about them both. They're both rostered in a lot less than 50% of leagues. You can definitely go out there, snag them both. Tennessee looked good this week on offense, so obviously, it was encouraging to see them without Derrick Henry, and their defense is still going to be able to help them stay in some games, which I think is encouraging. For kickers, Daniel Carlson, might have heard of him. He's on the Raiders. Viva Las Vegas, baby. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas unless it gets moved to county. So it is what it is. I like him this week. They might get in close. They might. High five, brother.
No, I had a question.
Okay. Which question, Kondo?
So you brought up with Daniel Carlson, what stays or what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Are you worried about that affecting him for road games?
No.
Okay.
Road games, I think he has 2 games above double digits on the road, 2 games below double digits. One of them was 9 points. So I'm really not worried about him on the road.
He's really defying the odds here.
Yeah, he really is. He's just out there doing what he's got to do, doing his Jesus work, as they like to say. Second guy,
over the last 2 days, we become quite the religious show.
Yeah. The second guy, he's not the sexiest name out there. He's not even on. Might have heard of this team. His name's Mason Crosby. Plays for Green Bay. Don't know if you ever heard of him. Kind of looks like. I don't even know what he looks like, but he just has like that weird angry face, but he's smiling. So it's like a weird picture for him because it looks like he's mad at me without even doing anything. So I'm just gonna pick on him anyway now. But Green Bay, I think they have a chance to score. I mean, obviously you're playing Seattle. You have Aaron Rodgers back, I believe. You're gonna get down a lot farther now, and I think you're just going to be closer to the end zone. Might get a couple of chip shot field goals, add a couple points to your resume. I think it's going to be a good week for Mason Crosby.
It is certainly an interesting pick there. I do want to bring that up if I can. This is what I'm working on doing right now. This is okay.
Yeah, that's the picture.
Mason Crosby.
Yeah, there he is. I told you, like he's like
He doesn't look
smiling.
angry. It just looks more like a superhero.
No, he looks like the Grinch, dude. Like the Grinch when he had that evil smirk right before we stole all the Christmas, decorations and stuff. That's exactly what I'm getting right now. Like those raised eyebrows like that.
I don't know.
That's just what I'm seeing.
I see it more as like a heroic,
I don't know.
kind of like strong chin image.
I don't know. I mean, I'd put interested in if I was you, Kondo. You seem to be really digging his facial features here.
I'm just saying that I would not call him necessarily like villainous.
I didn't say he was a villain. I just say it looked like,
I feel like the Grinch is considered in many wide circles as a villain, although he does warm his heart at the end.
Exactly. So he's not a villain, okay? He's
an anti-hero.
He was misunderstood. He was mistreated as a kid, lashed out as an adult. It is what it is, Kondo.
This sounds like a personal, thing to you.
Shrek wasn't ever this victimized. I don't know why we're not talking about Shrek. We're just picking on the poor Grinch. I don't know what you had to bring the Grinch.
You brought up the Grinch.
Doesn't sound right. I don't think I did.
Honorable mentions. I think we mentioned a lot of the honorable mentions already. That was just a lot of mentions.
Yeah.
One of the names that I forgot to mention, again, when we talked about our running backs, was Ramondre Stevenson. Had a lot of work in last week's game against the Panthers. Your face is just red. He is going to, I think, still be the number 2 guy, but we've seen Damian Harris get a lot of injury issues over the season.
Right.
Both of these guys are in concussion protocol right now. So I think Ramondre Stevenson is more of just a good handcuff ad that might be a decent bye-week fill-in, kind of like A.J. Dillon. That might be the only name that I didn't mention on the honorable mentions or before the honorable mentions.
Yeah, I think I spat everyone's name out during the show.
Latavius Murray was another one. Not someone I'm excited about, but Adam said at the end, hope that he has a good week and hope that you can sell him would be what I would be trying to do. On to questions. Bring them in if you got any.
You got questions? Send the questions.
Who to start? Waddle, DJ Moore, or Darrell Williams? It'll be interesting to see if CH plays this week.
I kind of hope CH plays just because, big CH guy. I think he's going to help the offense. I go DJ Moore, though. I think DJ Moore, I'm going to go against what I normally do and say running back, but just because I think CH has a shot to play, Williams could potentially just lose a bunch of his value, if not all of it. So I go DJ Moore. I think he's the best option. But if CH doesn't play, it's kind of close, real close, actually, for those two.
I think I'm going Waddle, especially in PPR formats. I'm worried about DJ Moore. I am. I think it's starting to set in. Like last week was very scary, and not in a Terry way. Actually, maybe in a Terry way, because when Terry hasn't gone off this year, it's been sad. So you could probably say the same for DJ Moore in recent weeks. It's just been sad that Darnold hasn't been able to get him the ball and been able to get him points. Like it's not looking good there in Carolina.
Right.
What is Stafford's status?
I believe it's a college. Found it a long time ago. Should be good to go, though.
Excuse me? Did you say he's a college?
He said, what is Stafford's status? I said Stafford's a college. As a joke. You didn't get it. You didn't,
I don't get it. Can you explain? I'm so confused.
Nah, if I explain it, then you don't get the joke.
Well, I definitely don't get the joke, but I don't get it now. I feel like I would like to know, maybe for future reference.
No, it's kind of like a club thing.
What? I think you just told the joke that nobody gets.
The people who got it, they got it.
I don't know
They
anybody
don't got it. They don't got it.
You just said Stafford status. College. Like, I don't know what that means. Does that actually make sense? Like, is it supposed to make sense?
Yep.
Okay. He sprained his ankle in the game last week.
Yeah.
They said, I did see that they said they were going to take it a day at a time, which is not necessarily what you love to hear. I don't know that I'd be too worried about it just because Stafford's played through a lot of stuff in his career. He did throw a game-winning touchdown with his left shoulder out, one of the best mic'd up moments of all time, best football guy moments of all time.
Pretty sure
not like anybody else. I might have a little bit of doubt, but Matt Stafford, I'm going to end up eating my words because of this, but I think he will be good to go.
I assume he is, but I mean, I think you should get a backup plan just in case. Pick up a quarterback, but he should be good to go.
Agreed. Cooper Kupp and CMC for Devontae and Dalvin. Full PPR, who's winning? I'm taking Cooper Kupp and CMC, which is, I think, kind of wild.
I mean, I'm going to go with Devontae and Dalvin. Just, to kind of stay consistent in everything that I've been saying this year. Cooper Kupp has 10 touchdowns, and we're going into week 10. So I get it. He's on a great offense, and he has a chance to score every single week. But to sit there and be like, oh, yeah, he's going to finish with 20 touchdowns on the year, I think is insane. So I'm going to go Devontae Adams and Dalvin because Devontae does not have 10 touchdowns this year. And Dalvin, I think both these guys are due for some nice games for sure. Especially, I mean, Devontae Adams only has 3 touchdowns on the year. So that's just kind of why I'm going with the possibility of, or like the inevitability that Devontae Adams finishes the season with more than 3 touchdowns, whereas I could see Cooper Kupp finishing with 12 touchdowns on the year total. So I think that's just why I'm going with that. It's close though. It's a close trade. That's actually probably one of the toughest trades that we've had to talk about.
It's close for sure. I'm going Cooper Kupp and CMC mainly because I think of the wide receiver separation. Like, I just want Cooper Kupp on my team. Even when he's not scoring touchdowns, he's getting – I mean, he has one game with less than 10 targets, and that one game he had 9 targets and put up 24.5 fantasy points. Even this past week, didn't score a touchdown. He had 11 catches for 95 yards. In the weeks that he hasn't scored a touchdown, he had 11 for 95, 7 for 92, 5 for 64, which was by far his worst game of the season, and still got you 11.4 fantasy points. I just don't think he needs touchdowns. Like, obviously needs it for the massive upside that he has, but like, I don't think he needs touchdowns on a weekly basis to be productive. And he's shown that just because of the volume there. I think Devontae Adams is a heck of a player. Obviously, best wide receiver in football still. I just think what this Rams offense should be able to deliver on a weekly basis, I think, is a little bit more explosivity than the Packers. I get that the Packers are a good offense, and you're definitely like picking pretty close to even when you're looking at Devontae Adams versus Cooper Kupp in fantasy football. Same with CMC and Dalvin, but in full point PPR formats. I mean, CMC probably when he gets to full health is going to catch like 7 balls a game. And that PPR volume is something that I would like to be a part of.
That's interesting that you kind of flopped on Sammy there. saying down on DJ Moore because of how Sam is playing, but then saying,
you don't have to be good to throw the ball 2 yards in front of you or throw a screen.
Yeah, you kind of do. You got to sell it. And if teams are like, he's just staring at CMC the entire time. He might
But what
just
has CMC done in the past? He did this before DJ Moore was like good. He did this before Robbie Anderson got there. He did this with tons of he did it with Teddy Bridgewater last year.
Teddy's just a threat to run it, so teams kind of just like
Sam Darnold is a threat to run it. He had 6 rushing touchdowns at the beginning of the year.
Right, what's he doing right now, bud? Like he's not
I
doing.
don't know. What was Teddy doing? Did Teddy have 6 rushing touchdowns all of the year last year?
Probably not. Teddy's not like scoring. He's a smaller guy. I'm just saying Teddy's like Teddy's a guy who
I think Sam Darnold is as big a threat to run as Teddy.
I think when like defenses are looking at Teddy, they're like, oh, Teddy has as good of a shot, as if not better, than almost anyone besides Lamar to just tuck the ball and run.
I think that's absurd.
What do you mean?
How many times has Teddy run the ball this year? I don't think that's close to accurate. Teddy has run the ball a max of 4 times in a game. He has a max of 24 yards. Mm-hmm. 2 games with over 10 yards.
Okay. And how many times does he how many times did he just run out the pocket though? Like watching the games, he just like.
Well, that's a very different story. He's not a threat to. He might be a threat to roll out, but not a threat to run.
Let me say this: he's a threat to run. Whereas if you're like whooping out the pocket, defenses now have to shift, and their focus is like this guy might just run it for a couple yards on us. Whereas if you're standing in the pocket and most of your runs are just
Matt Stafford, the whole Rams offense is around the bootleg. That's out of the pocket all the time. I don't know what.
Yeah, but there's like a difference between like designated and designed play action, bootleg, like shift the whole O-line this way. Whereas like normal protection, they're trying to keep everyone in here. Whereas Teddy is just like, nah, I'm gonna just bounce real quick. I'll throw it from over here.
I don't know. I mean, Sam Darnold has
when he runs it, he just he looks and then he just tucks and runs. Like he's not scooting and then going.
You said Lamar Jackson. Besides him, Teddy Bridgewater, number 1 guy to tuck it and run.
Right.
And then you said, oh no, Sam tucks it and runs.
In the pocket is what I'm saying. You got to stay with me here, Jim.
Well, you said tuck and run, and then you changed it to, he can
I didn't change
expand the play outside the pocket, but he's not going to run.
Oh, my God. I can't with you. You're not listening, dude.
That's what it was?
You're not listening. No, you're not listening. I can't talk to you. You're not listening.
Well, if he can't talk to me, then I guess that's going to be the end of the show today. I think if the co-host can't talk to the other co-host, we are going to have to end it for the day. And it has nothing to do with that was our last question, or we don't have anything else to talk about. But that is it for us. Thank you all for watching. As always, we will be back on Thursday to break down a super exciting Thursday night football game between the Miami Dolphins and the Baltimore Ravens. Sure, it's going to be a barn burner. Don't have no idea who's going to win. The Miami Dolphins will probably win because the NFL is backwards, and every team that we think is good is now bad, and every team that we thought was bad is now good. But maybe the Dolphins are still bad. Who knows? They are coming hot off a win last week and making Tyrod Taylor look silly. So, who knows?
Hey, if they made one mobile quarterback look silly, they can do it again.
Hey. Lamar. Teddy Bridgewater. That is it for us. Make sure to subscribe if you like the show. If you don't, probably don't do that. Unless you want us to show up just so you can be like, nah, screw those guys. I don't want to watch that. But that would probably be more of an inconvenience to you than it would be to us. Thank you again, and we will see y'all on Thursday.